If there's one thing that you should know about me is that I'm the biggest chicken. So the fact that I've already had 2 books on this TBR that talk about haunting, fears, and paranoia, like I'm scared, okay? Hi, welcome to my channel. My name is Ebony. If you are new here, welcome. If you're returning, little change in the channel name. But it's still me. So I decided that I wanted to do a fall TBR as an unreliable mood reader. I have found that especially in the month of August, creating and sticking to a TBR has produced the most productive reading month so far. Like, who would have thought? Not me. Anyways, first book that I want to read this fall is Beloved by Toni Morrison. Now, I recently read Sula, which I cannot stop talking about. Our main character escaped from slavery but is haunted by its heritage. She must deal with this haunted life on every level, from the fires of the flesh to the heartbreaking challenges to the spirit. So this sounds right up my alley. Obviously, I am a huge Toni Morrison fan right now. I got this stunning edition from Thrift Books and I can't wait to read this. I purposely purchased it because I knew I would want to read it this fall and I can't wait. Alright, so up next, I have to put myself on a book buying ban because as a mood reader, I get so consumed with like new releases or just really going on what I'm feeling, like following what's on my bookshelves and reading that. So I want to read The House Guest by Amparo Davila. And this is a collection of short stories that is Kafkaesque, Poe-esque, Shirley Jackson-esque. So it's going to be haunting, and it says with an acute psychological insight, Davila follows her characters to the limits of desire, paranoia, isolation, and fear. If there's one thing that you should know about me is that I'm the biggest chicken. So the fact that I've already had 2 books on this TBR that talk about haunting and like fears and paranoia, like I'm scared, okay? But I can handle psychological thrillers. I'm not one for like gory, scary stuff. So I'm sure I'll like this. I actually really am a big fan of Edgar Allan Poe's writing. So I'm hoping that since this was compared to that, I'll really like it. So up next, I want to read Nausea by Jean-Paul Sartre. And this is also another like psychological existential read. Jean-Paul Sartre is was a French philosopher who really tackled existentialism. This is the story of Antoine Riquetin, a French writer who is horrified at his own existence. Very relatable if you ask me. You already know I love stories that center around writers, and this is philosophical and it sounds dark and interesting. I'm hoping that this doesn't make me spiral. Another book that has been on my TBR for ages. If I do not read this book this year, it's probably never gonna happen, okay, at this point. And that is Norwegian Wood by Haruki Murakami. Now, I know the way Murakami writes women has been under scrutiny. It's giving misogynistic. Like, I've heard that he objectifies women and basically creates characters through the male gaze, which is extremely problematic. But I do want to experience his writing, and I do think that it's important that we can remain critical of texts while still reading them and studying them, if that makes sense. Like, it's important for discourse. So I still want to read this. And I'm actually very excited to read it because I have heard that Murakami's writing is very atmospheric and lyrical, and I do love that type of writing. Toru, a serious young college student in Tokyo, is devoted to Naoko, a beautiful and introspective young woman, but their mutual passion is marked by the tragic death of their best friend years before. Rachel Cusk, second place. Now, the story behind this is that I started reading this in the spring and I was like, hold up. I'm enjoying this a lot, but it's giving me fall energy. And yeah, I decided to stop reading it and I waited specifically for fall to pick this up. And essentially it follows a young woman. She sees this artist's artwork in a window and she becomes obsessed with it, and she feels as though the artist perfectly knows her and how she thinks, and she begins correspondence with this artist and invites the artist to stay on her and her husband's premises as long as he creates a piece of art. One of my favorite opening sentences that I've read this year: I once told you, Jeffers, about the time I met the devil on a train leaving Paris, and about how after that meeting, the evil that usually lies undisturbed beneath the surface of things rose up and disgorged itself over every part of life. And from just the 40 pages that I read in this, it definitely has that like unpacking of those evil, sinister things that creep beneath the surface of human existence. This is a lot, you know. I promise you I have some uplifting reads. I cannot just read sad things all the time. But while we're on the topic of dark, I want to read My Dark Vanessa by Kate Elizabeth Russell. Now, this has been popular for a while, this book. Please check content warnings. It follows a young girl basically as she is groomed by her teacher. HarperCollins sent me this with some stickies to annotate with, which I'm excited about and I'm very thankful for, and I want to read it this fall. We're gonna interject some like lighter reads. I want to read Saturday Night Ghost Club. Now, this book I also began reading last year. I put it on pause because I read it closer to December and I was in the mood of Christmas. Like, Halloween was over already and I was like, all right, this isn't really matching my mood, so I want to pick it up. It was an interesting book. It basically follows this group of kids. I believe it's set in the 80s, and it has the energy of Stranger Things, of the kids being like very interested in paranormal activity and very investigative of paranormal activity. And it seemed like a good read, like kind of nice and lighthearted, but still got that little element of spookiness. So I definitely want to read that. And up next, I want to read Their Eyes Are Watching God by Zora Neale Hurston. I have had this book forever as well. So it's an enduring Southern love story, sparkling with wit, beauty, and heartfelt wisdom, told in the captivating voice of a woman who refuses to live in sorrow. Janie Crawford and her evolving selfhood through 3 marriages and a life marked by poverty, trial, and purpose. Clearly, Zora Neale Hurston is a literary icon, Black woman writer, and I have not read Their Eyes Are Watching God yet. And I've been making it a point to read Black women writers specifically this year. So Toni Morrison and Zora Neale Hurston on the roster for fall. Some poetry I want to read. Life of the Party by Olivia Gatwood. If you don't know who Olivia Gatwood is, she is a poet who has a pretty viral spoken word piece called The Women on Staten Island. Absolutely love that spoken word piece. And I've read her other collection, New American Best Friend, before. I've had this poetry collection since Christmas of 2021 and I have not read it yet, and it's almost Christmas now. So I need to read it this fall. And it basically examines the violence against women's bodies, female bodies. I listened to an interview and she said for this book she was obsessed with true crime podcasts and things of that nature while writing this. So she says she takes from these cases that she was into and studying, and basically, like poets do, see what it says about the human condition. So I'm excited for this as well. I also want to read a new release, and it is Tomorrow and Tomorrow and Tomorrow. This book has been everywhere, honestly. I've seen so many people talk about it and have not seen a single bad review. And it follows a group of game creators as they are on college campus and basically making their way into the world of game creation. I've heard that it goes into detail about the creative process, and I also heard there's like a romance and there's women in STEM representation, which is all things that I love. And it has that campus return to school, back to school vibe. Although I'm not in school right now, but I just feel like that is the key to fall. And I actually enjoy reading books centered around college campuses. I think college is a very interesting time for everyone. If you've been to college or that age group, even if you haven't been, it's like very critical self-development years as an adult, as a young adult. So I'm interested in reading about that and that story. And I'll just leave some poetry collections around the screen that I'm interested in. Most of these poetry collections muse on the body, which is something that I like reading. As someone who studied anatomy and physiology and like is always in awe and constantly references the human body in my own work, I like reading other works that do so, very similarly to Life of the Party by Olivia Gatwood, but also How the Body Holds Experiences and things like that. So if you see me deviating off of this fall TBR, don't come for me too much. But yeah, anyways, this was fun. I'm excited to read this fall. Although I do have a lot of heavy reads, I'm sure I'll take breaks. And this is pretty ambitious for me, as I typically don't read this much in a month. I probably read 4 to 5 books a month. So I don't know if I'll get through all of these, but these are just books on my fall radar. Thank you so much for watching. Please be sure to like this video and subscribe. It supports me and my channel. You can also check out my social media links. It'll be linked all down below. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye.